What it do, Dream Team? It's your boy D Neal back with another reaction video, guys. Here we are with Australian school system and cost moving to Australia. Before we dive into this, make sure you subscribe to the channel, ring notification bell, give the video a thumbs up so it gets suggested. See what we got.
Is education in Australia free? Yes and no. If you're interested, keep watching.
I am.
If you're moving to Australia and you're planning to work full-time here, but at the same time you have a young family, young children, you're probably wondering, what am I going to do with my kids when I'm working? And I know that many of you have been asking me to make a video about this, so let's get started. If you're a working parent of very young kids, it's likely that you'll have to send your kids to childcare or kindergarten. Childcare refers to private or community-based centers where people usually take their kids to be looked after. And this is usually for kids aged over 6 weeks. And these childcare centers, you're going to find them around your suburb, in your area. Something that you should know is that the cost of childcare can range from 70 Australian dollars to 185 Australian dollars per day.
Per day? I feel like that sounds kind of similar to America. Per day? That's so hard to pay per day.
Now, another option to community-based or private childcare centers is to access this type of services, but in your own home. So, for example, you can hire a nanny or a specific certified professional to come to your home and look after your kids. These type of services are called family daycare and in-home care. And the cost of these services can range from 15 Australian dollars per hour or 35 Australian dollars per hour.
So you're about the same, if not more.
And in some instances, maybe a bit more. Now, in some cases, if you meet specific requirements, you may be able to access subsidies, that is government funding, to cover the costs of childcare services. This type of financial support is called childcare subsidy. If your children are not that young and they are between 3 years old and 5 years old, you can send them to kindergarten or preschool programs. Kindergarten refers to a 2-year preschool program for children aged between 3 years old and 5 years old. And these preschool programs are usually before the kids start primary school. Disclaimer: kindergarten and preschool programs may be called differently depending on where you live, in which Australian state you live in, right? And this is a bit tricky because in New South Wales and the ACT, for example, they call kindergarten first year of primary school. The activities that precede primary school are called preschool programs, whereas in other states, like here in Victoria, those preschool activities before year 1, it's called kindergarten. I know that this is a bit confusing, but hopefully it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I think here, I guess I would say kindergarten is a part of our primary school, because I mean you have to go to kindergarten before, like, I feel like it's K through 12. Like it's considered as part of that primary. Preschool though, pre-K, I guess we would call it. Pre-kindergarten, I guess you didn't really have to do pre-K. You could have, but you didn't have to. But kindergarten, you had to go to kindergarten. Yeah, you had about the same age. I had to be 4 or 5 years old. I think I was 4 when I went in. But most people start kindergarten at 5 years old.
Now, the usual weekly hours that children spend in kindergarten or preschool programs is around 15 hours per week, and they usually go to either a morning or an afternoon session. How much do you pay for these services will vary according to the kindergarten itself, because these are private institutions and they set their fees themselves. If you're not able to afford kindergarten services or preschool services, you may be able to access financial support provided by the government in the form of subsidies to be able to manage these costs. And the best way to find a kindergarten is to contact your local council or just go to their website.
2023, some Australian state governments have made and announced free kindergarten for graduates. That would be very helpful. primary and
Now
secondary.
let's talk about school education, primary and secondary school here in Australia. Attending primary and secondary school here in Australia is compulsory for kids aged between 6 years old and 16 years old. And that means that school is compulsory between year 1 and year 9 or 10. And let me briefly explain how it works. Primary school in Australia runs for 7 to 8 years and starts from year 1 or prep or kindergarten in some states and finishes in year 6 or year 7. Secondary school in Australia runs for 3 to 4 years, and depending on where you live, again, it may go from year 7 to year 10 or year 8 to year 10. Now, after secondary school, there's something called senior secondary school, and this runs for 2 years, year 11 and year 12. And of course, year 12 is the last year of secondary school. Another thing that perhaps you might want to know is that the school year in Australia usually starts in late January, early February, and it runs all year until mid-December. And kids get an average of 10 to 12 weeks or even 14 weeks in some instances.
10 to 14 weeks of school holidays per year? Because I was about to say, like, wow, they don't get much summer. It seems like if it runs to mid-December, then start again in late January, early February. But sheesh, 10 to 14 weeks of school holidays, like, they're getting plenty of time out of school. That's awesome.
Of school holidays per year. But again, these numbers will vary according to where you live. Okay, let's talk about costs. Yay! How much do schools cost in Australia? Is Australian education free? The answer is yes and no. This is why. Primary and secondary education in Australia is free if your kids go to public or state government schools, because these type of institutions are publicly funded.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, well, I felt like public school was free or just came out of like taxes and the government did all that. But yeah, okay. So public school, I think the amount was free.
Having said that, you do need to take into account that you may have to pay for a small annual fee, which is usually around 400 Australian dollars per year, and you'll have to pay for your kids' school uniforms, textbooks, and stationery and other activities. But
the textbooks? I understand stationery, gotta pay for that. Uniforms, whatever they're wearing, gotta pay for that, of course. Textbooks, I feel like should be a part of the government's costs because that.
Having said that, overall, public schools in Australia are free. Okay, another very important thing to know about public schools in Australia is that enrollment in these schools is based on location. And this means that it's likely that your kids will have to go to the school that's located in their local area. Another type of school education here in Australia is Catholic schools. Catholic schools are run by the Roman Catholic Church, and as such, the values that underpin Catholic schools are driven by Christian principles. Now, the good thing about these type of schools is that they're not as expensive as private schools. Why? Because they're partly subsidized by government. So you usually have to pay a relatively small fee. Now, independent of private schools.
I feel like it's very similar to America with the public schools, Catholic schools, private schools. We have all of those as well. With the you gotta go to school according to your location. I feel like that's mostly for public. If you're gonna go to private school, I'm not sure the private school rules, but for public schools, whatever schools like is around the area that you're in, that's the school that you have to go to.
As the name suggests, independent private schools run separately from government, and this is the main reason why they are much more expensive than Catholic schools or public schools, right? But by charging more money at the same time, they are able to offer better facilities than other types of schools. You can expect to pay for private schooling around $20,000 per year. And again, remember that these numbers will vary depending on the state or area you live in as well. There are other types of private schools here in Australia, such as faith-based schools, selective schools, or Steiner schools, for example. So if you're interested in a particular teaching method, I highly recommend doing a bit of research on this, because there's a whole range of different school systems to choose from as well. Now, if you're interested in learning a bit more about the higher education system in Australia, and this involves universities and vocational education and training, I highly recommend watching these videos here and here. Or if you're interested in learning a bit more about what is it like to work here in Australia or live here, I have a full library of videos in this YouTube channel for you and to learn everything you need to know about settling in this amazing country. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
I loved learning about Australia's school system, how everything works. She does a great job of explaining in her videos. That's all we got for this. You guys got a favorite video suggestion? You can subscribe to Patreon or drop it in the comment section. It's your boy DD out.